Hello, I'm Kevin Alcuni, a young adult librarian from the Pio Pico Koreatown Branch Library. And I'm joined by my colleague, Lauren Spector, a YA librarian from the Memorial Branch at the Los Angeles Public Library. We are here to introduce today's LA Made program. We'd like to start off by thanking some organizations that made today's program possible, including the National Endowment for the Humanities, as well as our amazing Library Foundation, and lastly, all of our incredible behind-the-scenes staff for helping bring the LA Made programs to you virtually. So for those of you who don't know, LA Made focuses on the diverse landscape of Los Angeles, highlighting the immense artistic and performance talent that has developed in the course of the city's eclectic history.
I hope everyone checks out all of our amazing offerings on our online calendar at lapl.org/events and the LA Made programs at lapl.org/LA-Made. Many of our branches are now hosting special virtual LA Made programs, including one coming up on March 11th at 4 p.m. The Pico Union branch is going to be hosting Create a Bonsai Tree with Robert Pressler. To get the program link for that, you can email Nida, I'm not sure how you say her last name, I'm sorry, nneata@lapl.org, and you can find that in the online calendar as well. And just so everybody knows, our next official LA Made Thursday program will be on March 25th, and it will feature author Walter Thompson Hernandez as he discusses cowboys and community with Robert Savvy, the leader of the Compton Cowboys. His new book, The Compton Cowboys, A New Generation of Cowboys in America's Urban Heartland, explores the history and current realities of these young, modern-day Black cowboys working to uplift their community through horses and ranching lifestyle. There'll be an opportunity to receive a free book for those viewing the program, and that will also be streaming live on our YouTube and Facebook channels.
All right, and so now on to today's event. Today's LA Made program is Growing Greens at Home with Elliott Kuhn. Urban farmer and educator Elliott Kuhn from Cottonwood Urban Farm, wow, that's a mouthful, will be showing us the basics of home propagation for creating quick-growing crops that can create a nutrient-dense, and delicious portion of your daily diet. He will cover the basic materials needed, propagation techniques, and discuss the different crops that can be grown. A minimal space requirement and low skills background make this the perfect starting point for the home gardener of any age. There will be time at the end of today's presentation to answer your questions, like what the heck is propagation? So please add them to the chat at any time during the program. And now let's welcome Elliott.
Yay. Hey! All right, so there's my cinematic pan. Thank you all. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Lauren, for having me here. I really appreciate this opportunity to share a little bit about gardening, especially in this crazy year. I feel like this is a year, of all years, this is a year to kind of tackle that curiosity. And so we're here in our garden beds. So behind me, we have cut lettuce, we have chard, way over there behind me, we have kale, we have little beds of radishes going. But all of this stuff can be mimicked in a smaller scale, right? What I'm doing is mimicking what farms do on a large scale, right? Normally we talk about 100-row crops and 30 plus acres, but we're doing it here in a 50 by 50 plot. And so I kind of want to take those ideas and intentions and transfer it to, like, how can we do these things at home? And this is for all experience levels. If you have experience gardening, I think this is a cool way to bring it into the house and to try something small. And the idea here isn't that you're going to somehow immediately grow all of the food to sustain you, right? But if we can tackle this little thing, it's a little opportunity for us to take hold of our own sustenance and our own health. And I think to enjoy the fun of it, right? There's, in my opinion, nothing better than grabbing something that you've grown, leafy green here, right? And being able to eat that. So I just wanted to start here, and then we're going to move over. I have it set up in my little wash station here. So Kevin, mouthful, but that's why it's a mouthful. That's Cottonwood right there.
Okay.
The Cottonwood tree, it's actually a riparian tree, and it's that tree itself is about 100 years old. And it's kind of a symbol of what this neighborhood used to be. For those who don't know, we're up in the Northeast San Fernando Valley, which used to be a huge agricultural hub out here. but has since changed. All right. So that tree for us is kind of a symbol of what was and hopefully what we can reimagine here. So anywho, we are here in the potting station, and I have a bunch of different stuff behind us. So I know some folks might have stuff already at home. The loose outline here is this. I'm going to talk about containers and vessels, right? The things that we need to try to grow some seeds in. I'm going to talk about potting soil. I'm going to talk about the seeds themselves and a little bit how we can read in that information, but how we go about seeding different types of seeds. And then the care, right? This big idea of propagation comes down to how do we get seeds to germinate? How do we get them to crack out of their shell and give us food, right? And we'll end with kind of just how you care for it and then fertilizing. And that can be variable, but we'll talk about some basic stuffs here. So in general, I like to grow greens. If I'm growing them in small scale, I use, this is called a 10-20 tray, but this is what people use to grow microgreens. So maybe you've seen that at the grocery store. You can see my dog running in the background there. So these are a commercial type product. They're really nice. They're really uniform, but for most people, these aren't going to be accessible unless you want to go ahead and purchase one. Okay. But so these are really nice. And I have ones already potted up that we can check out. Another one, which if you go to your nursery, the omnipresent, what we colloquially call the 6-pack. All right. These are really cool. If you go to a nursery or if you go to Home Depot, you can go buy these, but 9 times out of 10, if you're really nice and you say, you guys got any of these in the scrap heap? Or do you know if you can get these? These are really, really abundant. All right. And they're really, really easy to use. You can grow a lot of different stuff in here. Greens do great in here, and you can grow them up fairly large, which is pretty nice. All right. So 6-packs, pretty abundant. Almost as abundant as 6-packs are flats. All right. So usually if you see 6-packs at the nursery, they're in these things we call flats. They're square trays. I like using these, and I've seeded greens in them before. So you can fill them with soil. I line the bottom with paper to keep the soil from falling out. Kind of a simple one. Another easy one, egg cartons. We raise ducks here, so inevitably my neighbors wind up just giving me all of their egg cartons, which is great. Sometimes it's a little much, but they make great seeding trays as well. All right. The idea too is in a seeding tray, if I take an empty here, it's a place to hold your potting material. All right. We're going to use this blue metal potting soil from Kellogg behind us. But if you're using dirt, if you're using coconut coir or peat moss or anything like that, it's a vessel to hold it, right? The other key is this, though. There's got to be drainage. All right. I've had a few, like, sometimes it's kids that come to the garden and they'll be like, I planted these seeds in a cup and then they all died because they drowned. So roots need water 100%, and that's going to be a big part of you and your success with propagating these seeds, right? But they absolutely need drainage. Roots need oxygen. They need that exchange as well. So any container that you use has to have some sort of drainage in the bottom to let the water pass through the root zone, okay? So another one of my neighbors loves these plastic egg cartons, and they're actually really cool. But what I did is I poke holes in all of the bottoms here. So take my knife, poke holes in all of them. And what's cool about this one is it almost becomes like a little mini greenhouse when you want to propagate seeds in it. But anything you're going to use has to have drainage cut into it. But don't limit yourself. You're like, oh, I don't have, the ability to go to a nursery or I don't have funds to it. Anything can be. You just have to think, okay, I need something that can hold the soil and something that can let things drain through. Number one. Yes. Number two is your potting mix. Okay. Can you use dirt from your garden? 100%. You could just go outside and dig up some dirt and it can totally work. In general, when we buy potting mixes, if I can zoom in there, what you're actually getting in a potting mix is a mix of compost. Those little white specks are called perlite. And perlite creates, like I was telling you, the roots don't want to be suffocated in water, right? They don't want to drown. Perlite creates air pockets, all right? And then oftentimes there's low elements of fertilizer mixed into it, and usually in the form of a manure, usually chicken derived, sometimes other animals. But if you're getting a nice quality potting mix, and I highly recommend this, I'm not sponsored by them, but Kellogg, they're from Southern California. And I think it's really cool. If we're thinking about growing food locally, I think that goes with using the soil that's produced locally. And so Kellogg is a really, really old company. They're from Riverside, California. And you can find them at Home Depots. You can find them really at any nursery in the Southern California area. And I think it's a great product. And it's really affordable. You know, sometimes people want to buy the best of the best compost and the best potting mix. It gets really expensive. So soil from the ground's great, but potting mixes, and I think locally made potting mixes are the greatest. Again, this one's a really nice one. It's got a blend of fertilizers in it, and it's light and airy. What I would caution you is if you're going to use dirt from your backyard, sometimes it can be really, really compacted, high clay content. So even if you if you buy a bag of this and you mix it with your native dirt, it'll lighten it up. And really for seed propagation, that's key. If things are too heavy, it's really hard. You can think about all that little energy that's stored in that seed, right? It takes a lot for it to crack open. And so you're trying to create the path of least resistance for it. Mm-hmm. So heavy soils, a little bit harder, not impossible. And again, I want to say that gardening and growing food is about experimentation. And failure is a great teacher. I've failed at many, many, many crops. I've tried to grow a lot of things, and you learn a lot through that. So don't ever be discouraged, and don't be afraid to experiment, right? Because you're going to find your own solutions and your own creativity. So what I'm offering you today is framework and hopefully give you a springboard, but for your own creativity and deciding, you know? So just that to be said. I don't want anyone to get hung up on, I don't have the right supplies or the right soils. Anything, you can do this stuff. It's really possible. So again, filling them up, whatever tray you're going to use. So if you go fill up your, you got this container, we'll use a 6-pack here. For your first layer, you want to fill it up and you want to leave it just shy of the top, whatever container, not all the way to the top. Not all the way to the top. I'm learning that my camera is reversed, so I keep learning one way. Sorry, I'll lean that way. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be out of frame. All the way to the top, and you want to compact it, okay? You want to compact it. This is just giving us a little foundation for us to put seeds on top, all right? You don't need to moisten it right yet. This is fine. Usually if you're buying potting mix, it's already pretty moist from being in the plastic bag. But you're compacting it and you're leaving it a little bit below the surface. Hopefully that's visible and y'all can see that, right? So regardless of how you're doing it, whatever container you're doing it in, step one, all right? Find your nice container, drainage, top it with soil. What we move to next is kind of this is up to you. And again, I feel like nurseries are really abundant, but if that's not local to you, I know we have a ton of Home Depots, and believe it or not, whoever supplies Home Depot locally here in Southern California, I think does a pretty great job of trying to keep organic seeds, organic compost, and things that really are allowing people to grow that way, if that's important to you. If it's not, no judgment there either, but you can find seed packets all over Home Depot. They're usually in the far corner on the inside from the garden section. So they don't usually keep them outside. They're usually just inside. All right. But seeds are super abundant. Seeds that do well for growing in containers for the style of what we're talking about, of growing greens in a small container at home. Swiss chard right here. You got rainbow Swiss chard, regular Swiss chard. There's ruby red does really well. All types of kale. So kale is a Nebraska family. It's actually a relative of broccoli and cabbage. But all of these do really, really well. The cool thing about them is they germinate super quickly. So Swiss chard, kale does great. My personal favorite, and the one that people probably are most familiar with, lettuce. All right. And the cool thing is if you go look at the lettuce seed, there's probably about 30 different types of lettuce. And what I would recommend if you're going to try this technique is get a bunch of different colors so that you can blend them together. But you get a bunch of different types. Lettuce does really, really well. If you want to try some other kind of unusual small greens, radishes So if you grow radish greens and you're not growing it to actually grow the radish itself, if you grow just the green, you get this amazingly spicy, filled with a lot of nutrients, little baby green. And it's a really cool one that most people think, radish greens, you just tear that off, I'm eating the radish. But it's actually a really, really tasty part. So I actually love to do radishes this way as well. It's a really good one. And then let's see, radishes. You can try beets too in the same way. What I'll say is they don't seem to germinate quite as well because what we call root crops like beets that really send a big tap root, or carrots as well, they don't respond as well when they're in a really tiny package. So you can start them as a little germinated seed, but then they tend not to grow as well, especially when we're talking about this idea of leafy greens and cut greens. So keep going. I can hear you guys responding. Can I keep going? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. You'll let me know if there's questions or I need to pause or anything like that. Yeah.
No, I think we're all good. I think you're so real quick though, if it's a seeder container, same thing, compact the soil though, like let's say a container as opposed to a 6-pack.
Yeah, I think so. What you want to do, so in general, a rule is, and all of these seeds are pretty small. So small seeds want to stay close to the top, right? So like a good folky wisdom that I learned from another gardener was, however wide a seed is, you plant it twice as deep, right? So a lettuce seed is super narrow. It's maybe an eighth or a 16th of an inch, right? You probably barely see that on my thumb.
Yeah, like a speck almost.
Like a speck, right? Mm-hmm. So by compacting the soil first, and when we go to sprinkle those seeds on, we're assured that it's not going to drop way down into the mixture. We want to keep them right at the top. And that pretty much goes for most of these. The biggest of what I mentioned being radish, those could be planted a little bit deeper. But I found that if I compact the soil first in the container for this type of like layering of seed on top, it just keeps them from falling down and kind of keeps them evenly spread.
Because what happens if they go too far down? They won't sprout as well?
Sometimes, yeah, what you'll do is you get seeds that are struggling to make it to the top. Okay. Not all of these, but some seeds are light sensitive as well. Most seeds do not need light to germinate, right? Mm-hmm. So most seeds, all the energy is within them, and it's just heat and humidity that allows them to break out of the shell and send out their first leaves. But some are light sensitive. And so just in general, the smaller the seed, the closer to the top that we want to keep it in our propagation efforts.
Okay, great.
Okay, if you have your container following along at home, this is so wild, I wish I could see you, but we'll just assume that you're there and you're watching. So for me, I like using these little mason jars. You can go straight out of the seed packet. That was one thing I wanted to say. So we're going to be breaking the rules on the back of this thing. But I invite you, when you get a seed packet, and maybe if you're growing in a bigger garden, there is a ton of information on these. And I know it's probably inversed here, or maybe it's reading correctly, but there's a ton of information on seed packets that will tell you what sort of light it needs, the distance to plant. All of these relate to the mature plant. So what we're going to grow here today is almost like we're seeding a grass lawn of vegetables. But if you were growing individual kale plants, they tell you, hey, you should plant each one 12 inches apart, right? It wants full sun. Germination, how long it takes. And when they say germination, what they mean is from the time we put the seed in the soil and to the time that it breaks through and breaks out of its shell, it tells you the length of time. Most all of these are 7 to 10 days, pretty quickly. So within 1 week, you should be able to see germination. Little leaves cracking out of the ground. They also tell you the depth, seed depth. So, for example, these kale seeds, at the deepest part, a 1/2 inch, but they recommend more like a 1/4 inch. So again, right, really close to the top. Yeah. But these aren't just paper trash to throw away. There's always really, really good information on here. So, and this company too. Cornucopia, it's cool. They always put them bilingual, so it's English and Spanish on the front, on the back. And so, anyways, I've seen people just chuck the bag, and sometimes you're like, wait, there's something that I could learn there. So I take all my seeds, I mix them. So this is a mixture of 4 different lettuces, So we have all the lettuces in here. There's my camera. So what we're going to do is basically, you're going to basically try to take a pinch and cover the entire area. So if I was to, let me grab my seeding tray. So this right here, my seeding mix. So we can kind of see it's all compacted. These are these little microgreen trays. So if I go ahead and if I was using my little mason jar here, I'm basically going to sprinkle it so that it's lightly falling on the top of the entire thing. I'm not worried about spacing. It's literally like seeding a grass lawn. So we're really looking for a ton of coverage. So all of these seeds are falling. We're blanketing it, sitting right on the top.
Now, Elliott, if you put too many seeds, will it overcrowd as it grows, or is that not an issue?
For this style of what we're doing, it's not really an issue.
Okay.
So our goal here, right, is to try to create a carpet. So if we were trying to grow head lettuce, right, so each one of these seeds that we just sprinkled over the top of this thing could grow a full head of lettuce. Mm-hmm. So we are forcing it into competition by seeding so much in a small space. But as I kind of showed you in the beginning, what you'll wind up achieving is almost like a lawn style of growth. The plants will never achieve full size. What you're going to get is all of these seeds germinating together and something that you can cut and potentially, in this kind of scale, harvest twice. Maybe most likely if you're really going for small. So this is basically a microgreen tray. So if you've ever bought microgreens at like Trader Joe's or something like that, microgreens are cut once, but baby greens, you can actually get 2 cuts out of them. So we're forcing the competition by layering it in on top. You could, what I've seen people do too is if you seed this way, you can grow them all up this way and pick the plants out and then plant the plants. So you could grow a bunch of seeds in a very small space and then do the manual process of splitting them up and giving them the space they need to grow to full size. And that's totally an option too. Again, in our conceptualization of talking about this, right, we're thinking about people maybe limited space, maybe that don't have the ability to like really grow a full garden and use like a full garden bed type scenario. But so you are correct. We're basically creating competition that's going to force the plant to be smaller.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
you. I've lightly seeded this. How I did that, right? Just shaking it over. I'm not really too worried. I'm getting a nice even coverage over the whole thing, right? I've compacted it so all my seeds are sitting on top. Now, I use stuff called vermiculite, which is this like, it looks like gold flecks. And sometimes that's what I would then cover it, right? But I don't expect most people at home to have just a bag of vermiculite laying around. So what I would say is what you do after this step is, I have some right here, but you'll take a light, just like almost how you did the seeding right now, taking a light layer of the same potting mix and just gently putting it over the top. All right, just a light mix. Man, this is great. I'm really testing my balance here. This is awesome. I feel like I'm holding a pizza here. This is great. So anyways, moving across, making a light layer, you can tamp it down, all right, slightly, not too much. All we're doing is just lightly covering it. Again, if you were going full, you would use vermiculite, which is a really fine thing, and it keeps the top from crusting, but it holds moisture. But a light layer of potting mix over the top, right on time. And then I would say, again, patting it down. We're just trying to make a really tight medium. This stuff is fluffy in and of itself, right? So we're not too worried that we're compressing or we're creating something too compacted for these seeds to germinate through. So whatever type of vessel that you're using here, a tray, an egg carton, a flat, any of those things, that would be the next step, okay? So we've seeded our trays, right? They're dry, but the seeds are in there, they're laid out. So now we need to talk a little bit about, well, that's a very important step. It's a big step. And then how do we follow the journey of nurturing this thing? So as I mentioned before, there's really 2 elements that help seeds break out of their dormant phase. heat and moisture. So here, if we're doing it professionally, but you at home as well, the easiest way to go about that is a heat mat. So heat mats, if I swing over here and I tilt down with my amazing camera skills, this huge mat here, if I move my hand back, this right here is a heat mat. Basically, it's got little cables in it, and I can plug this in, and it has a little thermostat built into it, and I can set the temperature. But what this does is it creates heat from the bottom that rises up. All right, super, super helpful in successful germination. All right, bottom heat at what we call the root zone, right, on that soil. Really, really important. So if you want to buy a heat mat, it's amazing how, and maybe it's because of COVID and more people are buying this thing on Amazon, but the prices have gone down significantly. So if you want to buy a heat mat, you can get one on Amazon for in the neighborhood of like $20. And they even sell full kits now. So if you did want to go and get one of those like seating trays that I just showed you, they sell little packets like a seating tray, a little plastic dome, and a heat mat, you know, for in the neighborhood of $50. So that could be something that's interesting to you. If you don't have a heat mat, all right, a sunny window, cement pad, right? Cement retains a lot of heat during the day. On top of your refrigerator, if you ever touch the back of the refrigerator and there's that compressor, puts off that little latent heat. That was one thing I should mention. Because you have holes in the bottom of your pots, right? Make sure you have a tray underneath, all right? So that could be like my example here. Though my wife would probably kill me as I stole this pot, I stole this baking tin. So baking tin, because when you water, right, the water is going to run through. So don't just put the carton with the holes on it on top of your fridge, or whomever in your house might be very upset that you're putting water on the back of the refrigerator. So something to catch the water, right? But we can be inventive in how we capture bottom heat. All right, so. A heat mat is possible, but there's other aspects too. A sunny window can be just as good as well. All right. My experience, and for folks that want to really get into it, a heat mat is a very low cost and a very beneficial tool to really help increase your germination. Heat mats are coupled with light. All right. And if you have a sunny window or you have a sunny balcony, fantastic, use it. Right. It's that can be the most low-tech way. Again, just like heat mats, what has happened in the advent of the online world and maybe more people spending time at home is that LED technology has become crazy. LED grow lights are really, really cheap. So they're really simple. And so let me put my tray underneath, and then let me see if I can, even in the daytime, I think you'll be able to see these kick on. You can see that there. Let me spin back. So let's just imagine I've created this little area here. I've got my little heat mat down below. Shimmy that out. So each one of these, so I can turn it on. There's a little button down below. You see that kick on, kick off, kick on. So these these lights are just LED wands. What's nice about these, if I go down even a little bit further, there is they're adjustable. They're kind of like accordion-like. So as the plants grow, I can kind of adjust it. So, you know, maybe as it's starting, I've got them nice down and low on top of them, right? And I have 4 lights to really spread across the whole tray. So these are kind of nice. These were kind of, I would say like a mid-range light, but they make really, really easy ones that are just a single strip. And they're on a timer, so they all have built-in timers. In general, for initial germination, you just want to keep the moisture and the heat there. But once they've started sprouting, they need to photosynthesize and they need light. And a light cycle of 12 hours on, 12 hours off works fantastic. It promotes a lot of growth, right? So if we're hip to noticing the seasons here, right? Things in wintertime grow really slowly because the days are really short, right? But if we're growing indoors or we're adding supplemental light, we're able to kind of play Mother Nature ourselves, and we can get back to that sweet spot of 12 hours of light. Boy, plants love to grow in that. So it gives them, question?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
Is it the same rule of thumb for the heat mats as well?
So the heat mats come with a thermostat. And so
Okay.
what I do is I set it to around 67 degrees. And if it dips below 67, the heat mat kicks on.
Gotcha.
So because I didn't have a thermostat on them once, and what happens is it will dry it out. Right.
Okay.
If they're just running nonstop or they're running for 12 hours straight. So in general, how it works is they tend to kick on at night.
Okay.
During the day, and if you're doing this fully indoor in your house, you know, it's kind of an even temperature most of the time.
Mhm.
But yeah, using a little thermostat, 67 degrees is kind of a sweet spot.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
No problem. So in general, those are kind of the two elements that you need, right? Heat, moisture, light, or three elements, and light, right? To successfully do it. Let's talk about the moisture aspect. That's really your responsibility and your journey, right? You can set these other things to be automated, right? There's a timer and a thermostat for the heat and light. Okay, don't have to worry about it. Watering is on you, all right? And I think that's the cool part, in my opinion, about trying to grow food is that it's about nurturing, right? It's about the constant care. It's about keeping it in your mind, right? So many people are like, well, you know, I put the seeds in the ground and nothing happened. I'm like, well, did you go check on them? Well, no, you know? And so sometimes you luck out and you can just throw some seeds, wildflower seeds, for instance, you throw them outdoors and they're pretty good. But if we're growing vegetables, it's a plant that was developed that it needs the nurture and care of its human counterpart, right? It's been bred by humans and it needs that sort of attention. So watering is this thing. You don't need a water meter. Here's your water meter, your finger, all right? You're going to touch the soil every day, maybe a couple times a day. Touch it. If it's dry, it needs moisture. It needs watering, right? And we don't just go to the sink and turn on the sink and blast it, but it needs a gentle watering. So personally, the tool I like to use, which is hidden behind my computer here, is this little pump sprayer. All right. Pretty cool. Not necessary at all, but it's kind of nice. You get to do that. Kind of fun, you know? It squirts out. That's a nice way to evenly water. It's gentle. You're not going to blow the seeds out of the tray. The old go-to classic, the old rusty watering can right here. Again, a gentle water that you can douse over the top. And then the other one is a lot of people's sinks are equipped now with like either the side nozzle that's got the sprayer on it, right? Or, you know, it's a button on the thing, but one solid stream, not going to really do it. So you need something that disperses the water, all right? And you need to just gently soak the top, all right? And that's going to go for the duration of you growing the greens in whatever container you have. A nice gentle watering that lets you saturate the whole surface without disrupting and knocking out the soil. I'm sure you've seen that, like if you just leave a hose on a plant, right? And you can see how it erodes all the soil off of the roots, right? So we really want to avoid that. So the simple go-to classic of a watering can, a pump sprayer, or a gentle, you know, spray nozzle from the sink, any of those will totally work. But that's going to be your daily mantra. That's going to be your daily upkeep, is checking, because the moisture is key. If things dry out, it's especially for a young seed, it's something it's a little too hard to overcome, all right? Light, okay, can get away with. Heat, okay, can get away with. But the moisture is key, especially for that initial phase, that first 7 days, right? We're trying to get that thing to germinate. So every day, check in. If you touch the surface and it's dry, give it a nice watering. You come back in the middle of the day, it's damp, don't need to water, right? Really simple. But it's you got to build that routine for yourself of that constant observation and coming back to it. So if I spin over and I go down with my professional camera work, thank you. So if I'm moving these out of the way, that's what's kind of nice about these lights as well, is they kind of slide out. If you see me here, so I can just come in here and moisten everything. It's a nice gentle spray. It's even. I'm not knocking anything down. I had a horticultural teacher said that was her favorite part of the evening, was watering her plants with a glass of wine. So if you want to do that, you know, she's like, it's a very meditative process. But
I'm assuming for just one plant.
No, yeah, right. What, a glass of wine per plant? Yes. She's no, yeah. She's like, it's just great, And I'm like, yeah, I get it. So again, this guy's cool. Not totally necessary. To pivot towards, okay, so let's say we've done that for 7 days. All right. What you're going to see that pops out of the soil is 2 little leaves, and those 2 little leaves have a weird name. They're called cotyledons. Cotyledons is just a fancy name for the initial leaves that a seed breaks out, but they're not their true leaves. So, things in the brassica family, like I said before, right? So broccoli, kale, cauliflower, cabbage, all of these things, their first cotyledons, they all look the same. They're like this little heart-shaped leaf. So all of those, boom, it sends those out because that's their first, like, boom, got to get light and got to start photosynthesizing. What you'll see, that's that 7 to 10 days of germination. Then what you'll see happen is in about another, let's say 7 days, you'll see what we call the true leaves. And these are the leaves that are indicative or characteristic of that plant, right? So that you'll start to see like, oh, that's a lacinato kale leaf. It's got the little jagged edge and it's dark green. It's kind of savoid, right? So that's when the true leaves start setting in. What I'll say is you don't need to fertilize when you see cotyledons, all right? And the first set of true leaves, you probably don't need to fertilize yet. But as this thing puts on, let's say 1 to 2 inches of growth, it's a good time because we're growing in a container and it has limited access to nutrients to offer a nice, gentle fertilization, all right? So again, from the same company, Kellogg, they have their organic line of fertilizers called Gardner and Bloom Organics. And this is a liquid fertilizer, all right? This is made from some great stuff that my dogs really, really like. It's from molasses, kelp extract, fish solubles. So it's made from natural things, right? It's stinky. It doesn't smell the greatest, all right? So don't be willy-nilly spraying this around the kitchen, all right? This is ideally like take your little tray outdoors and apply this, let it chill out, and then bring it back into wherever you're growing it, or leave it on, if you are going outside on a porch. But it's just an old school way of fertilizing. Nothing synthetic about this, all right? Nothing that's going to burn or damage your plants. If you were using synthetic fertilizers, I would really caution you about attempting to fertilize plants that are in a small container at a young age. But with this stuff, you really can't do that, right? This is stuff that is really low. So on any fertilizer bag or liquid thing, you're going to see 3 numbers. NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, all right? These are the building blocks of all fertilizer. You'll always see these 3. There's macro and micronutrients, but these 3 numbers are what you'll see. In general, organic fertilizers are always single digit, all right? Synthetic fertilizers tend to be in the double digits. Stronger, derived from, petrochemicals sometimes, but just a little bit more aggressive. So, again, up to you. If you want to use Miracle Grow, whatever, that's on you, and you can totally do that. I just say read the labels carefully. I don't know about that stuff as well as I know about this, and what I know about this is it's very hard to damage the plant with this kind of fertilizing. Omri Certification, so OMRI, and this other one I think is the registered organic input material from the California Department of Food and Agriculture. That means they've been certified by an outside company that these are indeed organic and they're safe to use in organic growing. Okay. In general, how this would work, in my little pump sprayer, I take about a capful to about a half gallon, a capful to a half gallon, shake it up and spray it. It's a light feeding. We're just trying to, and it's called a foliar feeding because when you water on top, it actually hits the leaves and those leaves absorb in like a sponge and draw it into the plant as well, aside from soaking the soil area. So something like this is key. Again, not mandatory, and things are going to grow and you'll see it. I guess I'm trying to offer you, if you want the highest yield and maybe the most success, I'd highly recommend this. And this would be something that I would do with my growing greens, maybe once it's set true leaves, let's say every other week, So every 2 weeks, something like that. It's just a little bit of an additive to it.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, Elliot, will the strength of the fertilizer affect like the growth of the plant? So like a stronger fertilizer, will it do something different? Because it seems like you're saying that those are lighter numbers, right? So they're not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
will a stronger fertilizer adversely affect something like microgreens?
So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it
Okay.
for microgreens. You're eating a leafy green, right? So it's directly uptaking something. And so it's like keeping it natural. You're taking those nutrients in yourself, you know?
Right.
What I've seen happen with synthetic fertilizers, and not so much in a microgreen context, but I'm thinking about in the garden, right? Is you can burn plants. It's too much, or it causes an imbalance, and then you get other sorts of kind of like diseases that can manifest. So I don't have a lot of experience with synthetic fertilizers, and that's just a product of how I learned to garden. And again, I don't want to condemn anyone, because I actually have a neighbor down the street who grows everything with Miracle-Gro, and it's freaking beautiful. The guy knows what he's doing with it, you know? Like, so I can't speak to exactly, I just know that there's a danger of it being too much nutrients for the plants and for them not to be able to handle it. And I would just say, in general, since we're growing something that's a leafy green in a small container, I'd really recommend staying with something that's light and natural, because you're eating something, you know, that's going to come in.
Right. And if
straight
people
in.
have access to, let's say, compost, like
Yeah.
used, could you use that instead of a fertilizer as well?
Yeah, totally. What's hard is like in this tray, yeah, you could absolutely. So like in a 6-pack, in a 6-pack here, let's say I have my little greens, I could totally take some compost, drop it in at the base, right? Same could go with some granular organic fertilizer.
Gotcha.
You could also, if people have heard of like compost tea or worm tea, right? You could soak those elements in water and brew it, and then strain that out and pour that over. And that might be a great way to fertilize those plants. Okay. I think in general for container growing, and I'm equating this to like when we propagate tomatoes and stuff in 6-packs, we tend to use a liquid fertilizer rather than a granular. It seems to do better. It seems to drench the leaves, the roots, and these small plants have a better, easier time of taking those things up.
Gotcha. Okay.
But again, your own creativity, your own choices can, like, you know, find something out that I'm just sorry, double checking. Perfect. It's 4:43. I was trying to like glance at my computer, and then it went.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great. We do have a couple of questions, but if you have any other things you kind of want to wrap up with, or any other because teaching points.
Yeah, I guess just to recap in general. Okay, it's a vessel that's got drainage. It can be anything. You know, I didn't show it, but like, let's say you do want to do tomatoes at home. Man, these Home Depot buckets with holes drilled in the bottom. Fantastic, right? So your vessel is just something that drains through. Your potting mix can be anything, but think of lighter, better with nutrients in it is going to give you a higher success rate. And then seeding. There's a lot of information on that packet. If you're doing this cut greens thing, it's about making a carpet of it and letting these things grow up together. But if you're growing plants, always consult that packet. There's a ton of information on it. Heat and moisture for germination, then light and fertilizer to really let that plant succeed. And other than that, I just encourage everyone to really experiment. And again, I think this has been a very weird year, but I think it's a really cool opportunity for people to engage in this kind of old knowledge that maybe is lost on some of us, and to regain a little bit of control in these uncertain times.
Yeah, no, I could not agree more. I absolutely agree. All right, let's go through some of the questions that we have here. Someone was asking about growing carrots, and they were asking how should they, oh, there it is.
Hey, so how much should I thin them? Yes, I will tell you. For me, it's a thumb's width. All right, so about it, let's say 3/4 to an inch. So if I use a wheel seeder on my carrots, so it puts down way more carrots than I have. That it's too many in a tight space. So make sure you thin them about an inch from each other. That'll reduce the competition and allow them to achieve full size.
Okay.
There was another question, Elliott, about, and you pretty much answered it, because they were asking about watering, but you definitely talked about underwatering, but I'm also curious in relation to this question about overwatering. Like, I'm just sort of like, how do you know if you've overwatered?
Here is your
Or
water.
can you know?
Here is your water meter that will never lie to you. Okay. Is it moist? Don't water it. Is it dry? Water it. Okay. If you want to, and so I even do that. I do that in the garden, even. So outdoors, right? Like for me, I usually dig down about 1.5 inches, right? Because the top section always dries out in a large garden bed and not in a container. So I dig down. If it's moist 1 inch down, I'm not watering. All right. If it's dried out, and this is after germination, like an established plant, if it's dried out and I've dug down 1 inch down, it's still dry, then it's time to water. Again, I think there's no substitution for checking. Some people, I think, get in the mode of overwatering, that my plant needs water, and they just do the routine of, I'm going to water this thing every day. That's not the case, because it's about the observation first.
Mm-hmm. And then we have one more about reliably growing seeds, cilantro from seeds. This commenter said they had one good crop the first time a few years ago, but could never repeat it. So I guess any thoughts about growing consistently?
Ooh, can you hear me? Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're okay.
You're fine.
Cilantro is a crop that I'm going to admit I have not grown.
Oh, okay.
I like cilantro. I'm not wild about it. And so in one of my other classes, I'm like, grow what you love, because otherwise you're not going to care about it. But I know cilantro from the farm that I work for out of Carpinteria, Frecker Farms. It can be a really finicky crop. It's really hard to get it to set, to germinate, even germination. The other trick is it's really variable to heat and sensitivity. So I even know that they grew a bunch of cilantro, and then we had a heat wave like really a couple weeks ago, right? And the term is bolting, right? But really what that means is it stops making beautiful, tasty leaves, and it makes a flower, which makes the leaves bitter. So my short answer is, I'm sorry I don't have a direct answer. My longer answer is, I've heard that can be a very difficult crop to grow. And so I wouldn't be discouraged by it. But I would highly recommend Johnny's Seeds. This is a great seed company. They're off of the East Coast, but they're one of the largest seed companies in the U.S. And they're so amazing on an educational basis. So if you go to their websites, there's thousands of tutorials, PDFs, videos. And I would really recommend, I have no doubt in my mind that they have a PDF or a video specifically about the cilantro crop, and hopefully that person can find some answers there.
Okay. A question just for myself.
Sure.
Do you listen to music while gardening?
I do.
Do you have a wide playlist?
I have a playlist. make playlists seasonally because I'm a nerd. So I'm in the end of my winter season playlist.
Okay.
And I try to cycle through. I'm there's a little pup there. I use Spotify, so I'm on there. I'm happy to share them. I've been on kind of like a soul funk. Some old funkadelic lately has been making its way into my mix.
Yeah, that's fun. And do you talk to your plants while taking care of them?
Definitely.
Oh,
I think that's real. I really do. I think it is about putting your energy. I like to, absolutely talk to your plants.
So you converse with them and just, I know it's a one-way conversation, obviously. I guess
they tell me a lot of things.
Oh, fair enough. I'm judging.
Yeah, they tell me I'm thirsty. Wait, there's a pest eating me. Help me. I think there's many conversations to be had in the garden.
Okay, fair enough. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I actually do talk to my plants quite enough. I always just kind of look at them and just. But there is something to be said for nurturing a living thing and trying to help it to get to its best place.
Like one of my observations is funny to me. Like, so we have weeds, right? You're not going to have that in your home container garden per se indoors, but out here there's weeds, right? And there's these plants that I don't want in that space. Doesn't mean that they're bad per se, but they start mimicking the plants that I'm growing in that spot. And I always am blown away. I'm like, how do they know? How do they know that I wanted that other one to be there? And now they're trying to fool me. They're intelligent. There's an intelligence there.
We have another listener question here.
Sure.
This is from one of our teens.
Yeah.
She's asking, so we've given, so Elliott, as you know, we've been trying to teach the kids how to garden at home. And so one of the teens has been having trouble getting the seeds to germinate. So her question is, if my seeds don't germinate, then should I replace the old seeds with new seeds?
Yeah, so I would say look at your seed packet and see what was the time frame they gave you. Was it a week? Was it 2 weeks? If you really get outside of what they recommend on that seed packet, try again. Absolutely. And again, factors that I tend to see is things drying out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Germination will usually happen in an overwatering scenario. It's hard to overwater a seed to germinate it. You can overwater a growing plant. So I would most likely say really stay on top of regular watering to get that germination.
Oh, so I'm sorry. So you're saying it's very difficult to overwater a seed, but it's not.
Yeah. So like, you can buy packets of seeds too. You'll probably see them. But like, have you ever had sprouts? Just you buy like a little clamshell of sprouts at the market. Okay. Those are literally just seeds that you soak in water and leave in like a mason jar and let air exchange, and they'll just start growing, right? But they have to have the moisture. If you let them dry out, they stop growing. Okay. So moisture and heat for germination are the two key essentials. And so usually when you have a germination issue, it's usually around things drying out. Or old seed. So like I've got this seed, it's about 2-3 years old, and I can definitely say that the germination that I got in that first year, right? It'll say on the bag, it's like, 87% germination rate, right? Mm-hmm. It's probably closer to like 60 at this point, maybe 50. Gotcha. Like, so the older the seed is, the less viable it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So does that mean then that you would use more seeds? I mean, like, cause like the packet sometimes, like I tried to do lettuce and it was like, put one seed. And I was like, it's so tiny. How is this one seed going to do anything?
If it's new and if it's from that last year, absolutely adhere to that, right? Like, so if it's new, I would say follow the instruction. If it's older, so I have like an old bag of ruby red Swiss chard. Mm-hmm. And I use a wheel seeder, right, which is like this little wheel that drops it in the rows. And I did one bed and it was real spotty. And I was like, wow, what is this? Well, I look back at the bag. The bag's from 2016. So it's old. So what I did is I took the wheels on the wheel seeder are like little scoops. So I put a bigger scoop on there and redid the bed again. And I got much better because I was just putting more seed in the ground. More of it wasn't making it. So, but in general, if you're buying seed that's new from that season, yeah, it's amazing, right? One seed, one tiny little speck here can grow a full kale plant that could feed you for 6 months, So, yeah.
Okay. We have another question here. This person says, I planted tomatoes and it grew into a beautiful plant, and I waited for months and never got a tomato.
Okay, so there could be a few issues there. Fertilization with tomatoes, super key. If it's just super high nitrogen, sometimes you get high nitrogen creates green growth leaves, right? So if you're fertilizing it, let's say with straight fish emulsion or some super high nitrogen in those 3 numbers, that's the first number. Sometimes you'll get a very leafy, beautiful plant that really doesn't have the nutrients or the inclination to set flowers, right? The other thing is it's called blossom end drop, I think. Sometimes it happens on tomatoes. They'll set flowers and for whatever reason they'll wilt and drop off. I think it is related to nutrient deficiency, but I'm not sure. And then also just in general is pollination. So tomatoes are not something you can grow indoors unless you yourself are going to become the pollinator. So you got to make sure it's in a spot where insects and other animals can get to it. I have one friend of mine who it's outdoor tomatoes, but he takes a tuning fork and hits it he holds it next to the flower to let the vibration hit the pollen so it dusts the other leaves. He has a lot of time on his hands, but a really good guy. But you could also take a paintbrush and do it, but pollination is key. And so, I'm sure this person already knows, but flowers turn into fruit, but it takes that pollinator to transform it. I will just say that in general, tomatoes are very heavy feeders. If people want to look up, it's called the lasagna method of planting tomatoes. But basically, if you're growing it in a huge pot or in the ground, you do a layer of compost, a layer of fertilizer, a layer of soil, layer of compost, layer of fertilizer, layer of
That is a
soil.
lot of nutrients.
A lot of nutrients because
Yeah.
they're heavy feeding plants.
Gotcha.
And if you want a big crop, and if you want a plant that's robust and can take on, spider mites and other things that tend to be pests for these types of plants, you really have to hit it with a lot of nutrients.
Okay. Would plant food also supplement some of that if maybe you didn't do a lasagna method and you kind of want them?
Absolutely. There was this guy, Steve Goto, he passed away, and he's kind of like the tomato guru. And then he taught Steve List, who runs Silmar High School's agricultural program. And so he's kind of taken that on. I think it's a cool way of doing it, and I really like it. But there's a million ways to do it. But I would just say tomatoes and plants like that, melons, squash, all of those are real heavy feeding plants. Mm-hmm. And tomatoes too come in two types. There's determinate and indeterminate, right? So determinate are bush style tomatoes. So they make a big bush, they make a bunch of flowers at once, and they make all their fruit at once.
Okay.
Indeterminate are vining, and they'll set flowers at an ongoing pace. I personally love indeterminate, but they take a lot of fertilizing because they can keep producing for a period of months.
Yeah. We're going to have one last question, and then we're going to kind of wrap it up.
Sure.
This one is asking, is it possible to grow tomatoes in semi-shade over the summer in the San Fernando Valley, I'm assuming? When they have them in full sun, they end up roasting them. I can imagine that. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So I feel your pain. Alejandro, the Valley, I grew up here, and I knew it was always hot in the summer. I feel like it's exceptionally hot now. There was 2 days last year that were 120 plus in a row. And I had tomato plants that basically, the trick is you got to shade them. Mm. So you got to stay on top of, reading your weather forecast and knowing when we're going into a heat wave. If you want to do it over the summer, it's totally possible. A deep watering going into it, and then some element of shade cloth to protect it. Because I had a series of tomatoes, I didn't shade it going to 120 and basically cooked them on the vine. Yeah, right. It was basically tomato soup in a wilted bag. So it is possible for me. I'm going to be honest. I basically try to I'm putting tomatoes in now. So I've already I started my seeds for tomatoes in January. They're potted up now, and I will put them in the ground in probably this week. I try to do tomatoes really early. And for me in the San Fernando Valley, I don't like being out here in the tremendous heat. It's not enjoyable to me. And so I stopped gardening actively at the end of August. For me, at the end of August, we raise ducks here. Like I said, I open up the gates and I let the ducks go ham. Mm. And I let them eat the whole garden September through October. And then we start planting again for a winter crop in October. Gotcha. For us up here, it's really hot, All right. Happy dog day.
I just want to mention, because a couple people asked about viewing this again, and I just wanted to make sure that our people who are watching know that just about all of our programs that stream on YouTube or Facebook are available definitely on our YouTube channel. So you can there is a LA Made playlist, so you can go back and you can watch any of our LA Made programs. So I just want to make sure that those people who asked are aware that they will be able to see this again.
All right, and I just want to thank everybody so much for viewing the LA Made program today. Remember to check out our online catalog at lapl.org. If you enjoyed Elliott's presentation today, he will be presenting horticulture basics for the home garden with the Mid-Valley branch on March 16th at 2 p.m. Email, I'm going to just say out the letters, MLEONE@lapl.org for the Zoom link. Also wanted to let everybody know we're going to be doing a follow-up from today's program for teens and adults on Wednesday, March 24th at 4 p.m., also streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. Lastly, don't forget to mark your calendar for the next streaming LA Made event with the Compton Cowboys on Thursday, March 25th at 4 p.m. And thank everybody so much. Elliott, you were awesome. Thank you for all the knowledge, and appreciate everyone who turned in and viewed. Hope you got some great stuff out of it. And thanks a lot, and have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Elliott.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.